Thank you, Aaron, for this very nice introduction. And thank you all for being here and come and listen to my presentation. I'm going to speak about layouting your workspace. And I'm going what I think is a bit beyond the best practices. So as Aaron told you, I'm Lars de Vries. I'm an independent consultant, and I see myself as a storyteller, because everything I do, whether it's doing this presentation, creating a map, creating a data set, it always tells a story about something or it answers a certain question. I'm also a family man, and I'm self-employed under the name of omkeren, which in English can be translated as turn around. And it refers to another way of thinking, but also to a 16th century Dutch cartographer by the name of Peter Carius. Well, we all know best practices, but Mass describes my workspace best. I don't know how many of you people have this, working with FME. Yeah, well, it's the same for me. So this is a workspace. This one was in the template slides we received from Safe Software, but I was thinking, yeah. So, but what's really going on in here? I see a lot of transformers, and some things are told about them in the annotations. But well, what's really happening? So what are you going to do about this? Because layouting your workspace is something you really have to do yourself. And what is it about? I want to know what's happening in my workspace, not just for doing it now, but I'll probably have to adjust it over 3 months and did 10 projects in between and really don't know what I did back then. So, and most of you work in a company, so it becomes very handy to make agreements on a company level. How, as a company, are we going to lay out our workspaces? It's not only for yourself, but also for the company, and all your customers will always see the same thing. So when they open up a workspace, they'll have, oh, wait a minute, I recognize this because the one we hire always works this way. Document your agreements so you can always check it up. Oh, what did we do? How did we agree on doing this? And what I did myself is create a template. Put all the elements that you agreed on in your template, and you just can duplicate them, and you don't have to think, oh, well, annotation. I thought we did it that color, and we styled it that way, and what was it with the bookmark? No, you already have it in your template, so it's very easy to use. So remember this one. Perhaps we can make it look like this. So this gives much more of an overview, what is happening where are clusters of things. And I'm going to tell you in the next few slides the things I'm doing to make things, well, maybe better, more readable, and to relate things to each other. So the first thing you probably have noticed were the bookmarks. For every type of bookmarks, I use a specific kind of color. All my readers, whether it's a regular reader, a feature reader, maybe a joiner, I'll put it in a green bookmark. So you see that on the left, but also almost at the end of my workspace, I'm reading features. So that's very good to see. Writers, I use a kind of orange. Normally you could use red, like, okay, here my workspace finishes, but I don't like that color really. And all the other stuff, I just make it gray. You could use yellow or whatever color, but I make it gray. And that is telling your story. And if you're telling your story, when you're reading a book, it's all chapters. Chapters usually are numbered, so that's also what I'm doing. On the left you see the readers. Most of the time I start with them with 0, 0, and then just an order. Sometimes I start when I have many readers and there are many different bookmarks. I add something to it. For example, I start the bookmarks for readers with an R and then a number. The end, my writers are always at the end. So I add them with ZZ. So I know in the order of my bookmarks, when I look in the navigation pane, they will always be at the bottom. And furthermore, I just add the numbers in the sequence the bookmarks will be passed. What I also do, I use references in my annotations with transformers. And I try to use the colors Safe uses in their own within FME. So when I reference a parameter, I turn that purple. So right on the right side, you see filter on export. So I know I have a setting in my parameters, and I see, oh wait, I use that parameter right in this transformer. Adjusting or doing something with an attribute, I turn it, well, it's kind of greenish, brownish. It's the same color when you open up the text editor and you use or you double click on an attribute, and then there's a value attribute. So I try to use the same color, so that's recognizable for people. And very often you do something in a transformer that will be used later on in another transformer. So referring to that transformer, I used a bluish color. So you see directly, oh wait, I'm going to use my data that I do adjust here. I'm going to use that in a feature transformer, and you can directly see which one. I'm also using different colors of annotations. We just saw the regular color of annotations, but I'd like to use a few others. So if I have an idea for perhaps the future, how I can enhance my workspace, I put it in yellow. So it's not really necessary to apply it directly. It might be for a future version, but okay, it's yellow, so it'll be noticed. And also when a colleague will take over your workspace, he sees an ID, or she will see an ID and think, oh wait, that might be implemented now. When I have a remark, I'll make it orange, and something to do, I'll make it red. So when I have red annotations in my bookmark, I really have to fix things. But can also be used as a reminder, because I'm now developing a certain part of my workspace, and I have to do another part later. And I can use these like seeing, oh wait, this is a showstopper, and this is just a remark, oh maybe I should do this or that as a solution. One of the best practices FME says is never change the name of your transformer. Well, I like to do that because when I have like 10 attribute keepers, I use them. Or you have like 10 attribute managers, you don't know which one is doing what and where it is when you navigate through them in your navigation pane. So I rename them every now and then, but I still want to see very quickly what kind of transformer it was when I'm on my canvas. So all transformers have these beautiful camel case in their naming. So what I do, I take the camel case, only the capital letters, and I start the new name of my transformer with that. So when I see AVM, I know, oh wait, that was an attribute value mapper. AC, well, it could be an attribute creator or a copier, but it very quickly says something about which kind of transformer it is. Since 2016, we have tunnels. Well, I really love them, but I'm also anxious to use them because you do not see anymore where the data goes. So to get an overview of that, especially when you zoom out of your workspace, I try to use really colors that can be seen, and also the input and the output of the tunnel, I give the same color. So you very quickly can see, oh wait, this one is going there and that one is going there. So I created a template. My standard template looks like this when I open a new template. And well, it really becomes handy because I can also, from file, I can say, well, open a recent template. And when I say save, it always wants to save it as a new workspace. So, okay, and I got everything I need. So you see a bit more even here at the riders, for example, in white, I add what kind of database action I use, insert, update, delete. I used the parameters there, purple, no, the properties, so you see everything. And on the left, I also have version control, and I have a more general description of my workspace. So speaking about versions, I keep versions of all my workspaces, and I distinct between development versions, and I just use A to Z for that. And every day when I reopen a workspace, I'll just save it as a new version. Or even when I want to do big changes, I'll save it as a new version. And the final versions are the versions released to my clients. Or when I think, okay, this thing is really ready for being used in production. So when I look at the file name, when I open my Explorer, I directly see, oh wait, this is a development version and this is a release version. And I was thinking about, let me see, this workspace, and thinking, well, can that also be done differently? I said, well, make agreements on a company level. And I thought, well, maybe, because, well, there's still a lot on my workspace. One thing I thought of is you can use like gradual colors going from green to red and everything in between, so showing the progress of your workspace. And the other thing I thought of, well, Don and Dale love to have a maximum of 10 transformers on my workspace. So instead of using bookmarks, I'm going to create custom transformers for each step. So, well, there's still a lot on this workspace, and I think it's kind of messy, but there are less than 10 transformers on it. So that can be a solution. The next step I want to take is also retrieve with another FME workspace my documentation from these templates. Because I got this much structure now in my workspace that it would be very nice to get my documentation automatically. I have tried the Workspace Reader for that, but that didn't give me sufficient information right now. There is another solution which I haven't tried yet, but you can read your workspace as an XML, and then you get also the location information of all the objects in your workspace. And from that perspective, you can relate the different objects and then create your documentation from that part. So having that said, I'd like to ask you to vote for two ideas that can help even manage your workspace. The one thing is, well, sometimes your connection lines are just a spaghetti. And then it would be very nice if you can see what direction information is going. So please add arrow markers for connection line segments. And maybe you can do that in the middle or on sections. But it would be very nice to have that. It's an idea of my own. And another idea I wanted to suggest was already suggested by the FME Lizard, so all credits for him. Add the possibility to color your connection lines, especially when they're crossing each other. And also now with the squared lines, they are crossing and you don't always see which line is which. So change the link color. So when a purple and a blue or a blue and a red color cross each other, line cross each other, you see which one is going where. So please vote for this. My intention, layouts can make life easy the way if you apply them well. Don't you agree? So I would like to thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, please ask them. Sorry, yeah, I got a bit of a bad hearing, but okay.
I think the question is, we thought about coloring the transformers themselves different colors. And I'd say probably somebody has. I haven't, but you can put that in the ideas exchange and then do a presentation next year or next time and put it up there. But yeah, I would put that idea in the ideas exchange.
Yeah. Well, I think it's something similar like coloring the connection lines, but I think it's also, you have to watch out that's not going to be a painting. Your FME workspace, we got artists for that. And so I think, personally, I really like that the transformers have their own color and the readers and the writers have their own color. But from the perspective of reading and writing, I can imagine that certain transformers like feature reader, feature writer get the color of a reader or a writer. But yeah. So other questions? Yes?
I really like your idea of numbering bookmarks, but I've tried it for years and my workspace, I put in all the bookmark numbers and then I find I have to open it apart and add in another bookmark and then I've got to change all my numbering.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Well, sometimes you can handle that by starting with larger numbers. So, yeah. And so start with, for example, 10, 20, 30, 40. And if you put things in between, you can go to 15 and 18. And so you'll have space. So because nobody says it should be 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I often do is I add an extra letter to it. But mostly I use that when I incorporate a bookmark within another bookmark. But yeah, you can also use that as a suggestion. Other questions?
Other questions out there? Great, great proof of, or show of layouts if you have any questions about that.
Well, then I'd like to thank you for your attention.
All right.
And have great, as Don and Dale said, have fun.